Good evening, friends. I welcome all for this seminar on COVID, impact of COVID on business valuation and financial reporting. This is one seminar which Corporate Professional is organizing, and I welcome all of you. And I'm overwhelmed with the response of our friends. We received more than 800 registration, and we have to stop because the limit was 500. Now, for this particular confidence which you have reposed on a corporate profession, we thank you and we thanks for your participation. Friends, today's seminar, or we can say webinar, Chandar Sani is the speaker, who is a chartered accountant, company secretary, and who is a registered valuer. He is on the committee of CACS Insolvency Board, which handles the valuation business, and the SOCHM and PSD. He is a prolific writer and the speaker, and he has written an exclusive book on valuation, which is widely acclaimed and respected in the industry. Friends, as you are aware that we have sent you the invitation for this program, and we have given a structure also. Now, what is the program structure? I'll just tell you. I'll give you overview of this program. Then Chandar will explain the nitty-gritty, how to do valuation, principle, and how this extraordinary situation, the valuation will take place. Then after Chandar's session, we will have a question answer session. Then everybody can write questions, and then I will concluding remark. Friends, as you are aware that webinar is for 1 hour, so we will restrict that everybody can send their questions, so we will give answer. As you are aware that valuation game is always of the data and the figure, and then projection. So we have a historical result, present situation, and then future projections. And future projection was always depend upon the demand and supply. Now demand and supply, the supply aspect was always connected with raw material, supply chain, logistic, and the customer. Today we are facing all 4 problems when we are talking about the supply. Raw material shortage is there, supply chain issue is disrupted, logistic is utterly failed, and then customer is also not allowed, or they cannot do except the essential things. Business model was not that important as compared to figure earlier, but today the business model has taken the main key, and if you are not following or not understanding the business model, your valuation will fail utterly. Friends, as you are aware that COVID-19 crisis is severely damaging the business economics worldwide. There's no difference. All countries are affected by this, and this is giving a tremendous impact on valuation of business. Capital market we are also seeing, because sometimes we think the capital market is a barometer of economy, but that is also giving a different results. Sometimes when we see some company, it looks cheap, sometimes it looks low, fair, or high, because there is a huge uncertainty. If I see the first March, the index was 38,000, and today is 31,000 around. Every day we are seeing it is 200 point up, 260 point down, 80 points up, 100 point down, and there is no stabilization in the price. Indian index, which was down from the peak, it has recovered 20%. US index has recovered 30% because of the simulation they have given. India has not given that strong simulation to the industry. That impact has to come, which we are expecting that today Prime Minister may announce something. it is an unprecedented crisis. No predefined, you can't find any past history, no parameter, and you cannot take direction for giving any valuation. And this uncertainty is across all sectors, all markets. And it is leading to challenge, not just carrying the valuation, but how to determine and how to report, which can be helpful for the valuation and those who want to use that information. If you see the valuation of ongoing deals which are going on, the question comes, does the price and projection still hold the same? Does the historical result still have the same expected projections? Can the expected synergy will be achieved or not? These are the questions people are thinking and going on. We are doing one transaction and we are doing one deal, and that deal is always because buyer and seller has agreed on some point, but today after the COVID, everybody is giving their own projection. One is giving the bad projection, those who want to exit, they are giving the better projection, and they are giving both logic, but point is there's uncertainty, there's no fixed parameter which we can decide that who is wrong and who is right. M&A and funding deal is generally accepted norms for valuation is because it's a normalized earning after adjusting non-recurring, non-economic and other unusual items which are there, because we want to eliminate the anomalies and facilitate the comparison. But however, in this extraordinary situation, the spread of COVID-19 has created uncertainty, and the most important thing, there is no timeline when this uncertainty will be over. People are saying September, people are saying 1 year, people are saying 2 years. So you can't do, and on the basis of this, you can't fix the right adjustment. I'll give you one example that this is not that only financial figure or other things are taking place and the valuation is challenged, because we are an entrepreneur country. We have some new innovative thought also. I was talking to one of the leading textile company CEO. They were talking that what they have done, they have talked to the Ministry of Textile, and then they converted, because they have a raw material of textile line in their factory. It's a cost also, and there is a need of mask in India. So they converted all their factory and converted all the material which was lying there and making a mask. And then second thing which I came to know through them, they are saying they have a retail showroom, and the retail showroom is a close. So the employee cost is there, and they are paying to all employees. So they decided to talk to these e-commerce company because they require more manpower for the shorter period. So they have talked to them, and on 50% cost, they have given their people to them. So you can understand that these types of innovative things have started, and people are reducing their cost. So if I'm taking that parameter that this cost is the company's performance is bad, but they are arranging something and they are using their resources and utilizing their value creation by this way. Innovative solution is not only in India, across the world is happening. Jara is making mask. The Foxconn, this is Apple, the company which is manufacturing Apple. They are manufacturing surgical mask. Distillery companies are manufacturing hand sanitizer. Luxury hotel become quarantine center. Automobile companies are manufacturing ventilators. And you are aware that General Motors, they are making masks and ventilators. And if we can recall 1945 when the Second World War was there, the General Motors converted their all factories and making the tanks and the defense material. So these are the things which we can see that there's so many innovation has started in the process. But this innovation is a challenge for the valuer, because sometimes you are taking a situation that this is the parameter on which business is going on. But here some innovation will bring more value, more money. Today, what is happening? Which company is progressing or which company is working? Those who are creating essential goods. So you are seeing that essential good company is creating value, but essential good company, essential producing material producing companies, they have to follow the Essential Commodity Act. The government impose transactions and they can fix the price also. So friends, it is a difficult time, and as a valuer, as a company which is doing valuation, as a merchant banker, we are also facing this heat because we don't have a parameter, we don't have the future projection which can be verified. We are not aware that uncertainty will long last up to what times. So this is a very difficult time. Despite of this, we are working out and we are adjusting and understanding things. In this difficult time, our valuation team is continuously analyzing, deliberating, and doing research to determine what is the right way forward to do valuation. And in this webinar, we are trying to deliberate upon all aspects of valuation, be it deal, be it accounting, and be it disclosure purpose, and give you our consideration. Chandar will discuss with you now the impact of COVID on business valuation and financial reporting. And his presentation is talking about that what are the principles we should follow and what are the adjustments we should follow. The principle will not change. The business model, company to company, will change. So you have to adjust, you have to change, and you have to accommodate certain aspects. So I think this is the right time, this is the right opportunity to all of you to understand principle and this impact of COVID. And it will helpful to all of you. Thank you very much for joining this. And I will request Chandar to start his presentation, impact on COVID on business valuation and financial reporting. Over to Chandar.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for giving the broader perspective of COVID and how it is impacting the Indian and global markets. I mean, the only thing that comes to my mind is that it is unprecedented. So it is difficult to assess when we don't even know how deep we stand. But before we go into the technical aspects of financial reporting and impact of COVID, I would like to run through some basics of valuation aspects. So what we have done, we have divided into the valuation process, the valuation approaches and methodologies, financial reporting valuations, which is the subject today, impact of COVID on business valuations, and any every question probably which you would like us to answer. If we just start with the valuation process, I mean, the presentation, this slide was same before COVID also. The only difference I see is that now probably more valuers would be following this slide. So first of all, before doing a valuation, you need to understand the purpose of valuation. Many a time it is a regulatory purpose, many of time it is a transaction purpose. The purpose of valuation guide us in the selection of valuation methodology. Basis the purpose of valuation, we ask information from the company. We look for financial analysis and normalization adjustment. Just think of it, how important this is it, that financial analysis and normalization adjustment. If you don't do that, I mean, suppose a company has done 100 crores turnover in FY20. Do you think the company is going to do 100 crores in FY20? 80% the answer would be no. We can expect a decline of 20-30% unless and until the company is into a positive sector. Similarly, once you normalize the financials, you need to go to the industry and understand whether it's a positive industry, negative industry. If it is a pharma sector and if it is a travel sector, both are poles apart today. Whatever happened prior to March may not sustain today. Forecasting and reviewing company performance. Again, the projections are going to be very challenging. And when we talk of financial reporting, it is the role of a management to prepare the projections, but it is the role of a valuer to review the projections. So it is going to be a big challenge, and probably as we see this lockdown opening, there is going to be a tussle. I am expecting that between management, valuers, and auditors. And probably we will have to go through the basics and fundamentals and documentation process for making our case. once the financials of the company is normalized, once the industry has been evaluated and the forecasting is made, then you have to apply the suitable valuation methodologies before the value conclusions. Just a slide of the regulatory valuations, that we need to understand that whether the transaction is a transfer of share, issue of share, scheme of amalgamation, fair value, bankruptcy. Depending upon that, we need to look at whether any regulator has prescribed any valuation methodology. Because if any valuer has prescribed any valuation methodology, that means you need to stick to that. But when it comes to financial reporting, there is no valuation methodology. It's a basically level hierarchy, which I'm going to cover in subsequent slide. Second part is the valuation approaches and methodologies. Whosoever does valuation knows that broadly there are only three categories, three asset classes, and there is an asset approach, there is an income approach, and market approach. So the valuation approaches remain same. But what happens if you look into this slide, then valuation methodologies vary across business cycles. So if it's a startup company, or if it's a growing company, or if it's a declining company, as we move up the ladder, we use more of the asset valuations, and for growing companies it's more of a income and market based valuation. So just I gave this slide to understand where the company stands, and basis that which is the methodologies that are going to be followed. In terms of some judicial guidance, it's very clear that once we are following the valuation for a going concern, if there is an operating companies, if the assets are cash generating in nature, we need to value using the income and market approaches. When it comes to asset heavy industries, when we are talking of an IBC valuation, when it's a liquidation scenario, we need to value basis the assets of a company. So I'm just connecting the dots, that from where everything is written, because when the questions will come, then these small and basic things will come to our rescue. IVS guidance, just read para 10.5. It is a valuer's responsibility to choose the appropriate method for each valuation engagement. So a client can say, you do not follow discounted cash flow, or maybe if the markets are 40% down, and he can still say that I am going to recover that, because time to recovery is one discussion which is going on, that whether the downfall is so steep. We have never seen that. I mean, 2008 financial crisis, it took about 18 months to get back to the cycle. But the downside, if we see, the downside is just 45 days old. So people are expecting, can it be a V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery, all kind of questions. But there will always be challenges, and management would like to decide and dictate. A valuer has to follow the logic and build on the documentation. A guidance in para 10.7 of IVS is that valuers should maximize the relevant observable information. If the valuer is seeing in front of the eyes that the market valuation is X, and if the valuer is seeing that the comparable companies are also giving X plus 10%, and if a DCF gives 10X, can a valuer decide to apply discounted cash flow? It is the responsibility of the valuer to choose the appropriate method. So only thing is, now there is going to be a differentiation, is one management is doing, what valuer is doing, and what auditors are accepting. Because mostly I have seen valuers and all professionals accepting on the management representations may not hold good anymore. So management representations, though they would help to support, do not rely only on management representation, going to be very challenging task. Just a basic slide, that if you follow asset-based approaches, market-based approaches, and DCF, some of the approaches result in equity value, some result in enterprise value, some result in minority value, some result in controlling value. So while applying the methodologies, we must try to connect the dots and see that the right methodology is resulting into the right result. Otherwise, there could be some confusion. Now let's come quickly to the financial reporting valuations. See, for financial reporting valuations, we need to refer to the main standard, and which is Ind AS 113. Ind AS 113 defines what is fair value, and Ind AS 113 is global equivalent of IFRS 13 and ASC 820. Hello.
अंदर थोड़ा सा slow, some delegates are saying थोड़ा slow बोलना.
Okay. So So I was on financial reporting, and Ind AS 113, which is a fair value standard, is in line with global equivalents of IFRS 13 and ASC 820. Now, if we see the definition of fair value, then fair value is defined as a price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability in an orderly transaction. The word is orderly, between market participants at the measurement date and under current market conditions. So all these four underline orderly transaction, market participants, measurement date, and current market conditions. These four elements, if you look at it, then you will be able to arrive at a right valuation. So first of all, it is an orderly transaction. That means there is a willing buyer, willing seller concept. It is not a fire sale. It is not a forced sale. Second, the valuation has to be done on a measurement date. Now, what is a measurement date? In terms of financial reporting, the measurement date is 31st of March. Now, if we look into COVID, then on 23rd of March and 24th of March, the stock indexes in India were at their all-time low, which were 40% down. So certainly 31st of March would be highly volatile. And then a call needs to be taken that can you say that a price which is reflected on 31st of March is an orderly transaction, because there is a very high level of volatility, and maybe you may not justify the willing buyer, willing seller concept also. When it comes to measurement date, then you have to look at whether it was known or knowable. The point here is, yes, when the COVID was there, because it was declared as pandemic in March itself. So we all know that on 31st of March, it was known and knowable that COVID pandemic has occurred. Before the COVID, because the COVID pandemic has occurred, that means that yes, we need to look into and adjust the events of COVID. Then fair value essentially is a market-based measurement and not an entity-specific measurement. Very important aspect, because when you do a valuation of a company can make any number of projections. It can say that I am going to still achieve it, but once you are doing a fair value, you need to look at it at how the market participants would value that company. So actually what the company wants in this case is not too much important. A valuer has to give focus on observable inputs, and there is a clear fair value hierarchy, which is that if a company is listed, you have to refer to the market price. If a company is unlisted, you have to refer to the comparable companies, and DCF comes after that. Only leeway that I see here is that because the willing buyer, willing seller may not hold true because of the high level of volatility, so a valuer can decide, and there can be a discussion with the management that a weighted average price could be considered as a better measure instead of considering a 40% down price, which is actually not indicating the fair value. So essentially the key takeaway is that instead of taking a one-day price, which is going to impair all the companies, we must take an average, and certainly the observable inputs have to be referred to. Some specific standards if you are valuing financial instruments, or if you are valuing ESOPs or business combinations or intangible assets, these are some specific Ind AS which one can refer to while doing valuations, and all would be considered as important. Now, some key takeaways that I would like to give you is that once you are doing a comparable company's market multiple, you need to first look into the comparable companies. What is the market size? How do you need to compare that? What is the kind of multiples? Whether you would like to compare a PE multiple or a EV EBITDA multiple or a price to book value multiple, what kind of discounts and premiums you would have to look at it. So some of these factors are important for comparable companies multiple. Similar case would be comparable transaction multiples. Once you're doing a discounted cash flow, you need to first understand the business model. You need to actually differentiate between sustainability and growth, because every company, if you look into the India story, then every company used to show a 20-30% increase year on year. But right now, if you look into FY21, FY21 most likely is going to see a dip. The simple logic of that is that first quarter is going to be a washout. I mean, today is 12th of May and 45 days are already gone. By the time we settle, first quarter would not be there. So first quarter financials, probably that is the reason that market discounted too much, because it is already factored in the quarter one impact as well. Market, I mean, as someone says that market looks, which other people do not look, they are not able to look as such. So we need to look into specific cash flows and the sustainability of cash flows, reasonableness of cash flows. And when we say cash flows, then cash flows can't be seen singly. Cash flows and cost of capital go hand in hand. So the aggressive the cash flows, the more will be the cost of capital. But yes, I would say that 70% focus should be there on cash flows, because once the business model has been rationalized, it has been fine tuned, then you can put, I mean, you can't, I mean, I have seen people giving 10%, 15% additional discounts, very, very discretionary and must be avoided. So our focus should be to sit with the management and sanitize the cash flows, whatever could be achieved. And obviously there has to be a more detailing of the models, which we have never seen. So coming to the relevant aspects of impact of COVID, what is happening, that the big question which is running now is impairment of assets. Because on 31st of March, if you have invested in a company and the cash flows of the company, whether that is a temporary diminution or that is a permanent diminution, whether it's a temporary event or permanent event is the first question of debate. Because you do impairment when there is a triggering event. Certainly it's a triggering event. I mean, it is certainly known and knowable as on 31st of March. So triggering event is not a question here. Yes, temporary and permanent depends upon a lot of things. Like Pawan sir mentioned that in US, we have seen that the markets have recovered 30%. I mean, if it fell 40%, it recovered 30%. One reason is that US has given a 10-12% of GDP stimulus. I mean, if a company, see, in this case, it's not a financial crisis. It's just that it's a lockdown crisis. Every company has stopped the production. We all are sitting in our homes. So as the sooner it opens, and if the government subsides the impact, if the government gives certain subsidies, if the government gives certain momentum like moratoriums and all, and that is a reasonable impact, we can see the Indian capital market should also increase. However, again, it's a choice between maintaining a fiscal discipline or giving stimulus to the industry. And I understand government is looking for MSMEs, government is looking for agri sector. So there is going to be some kind of stimulus which is expected soon. But so far there is no stimulus in India. And a debate, like I mentioned before, a debate is going to happen between management, auditor, and valuer. And I would say that it is going to be, I mean, if a valuer and management can sit together and they discuss threadbare that yes, this is possible and this is not possible, and whatever we are saying, I mean, yesterday I was speaking to a client and I just asked that what have you done in the last 40 days? So if you have not done something in the next 40 days, the best case scenario is that you can do everything which you can do, which you did in the last 9 months. You can repeat that. That is also an optimistic scenario. Because I mean, a company saying that it will be able to maintain the business and profitability. I mean, fixed cost, everyone has fixed cost. So if you look into it, once you wipe off the 3 months projections, 3 months cash flows, then most likely there is a direct hit on the cash flows of the company. So yes, there is a triggering event and there is an impairment of asset which comes to my mind clearly. Second part is, only exception here would be certain kind of positive industries, and the only positives I see right now is, one is pharma, and second is the healthcare and pharma essentially, and to some extent FMCG, because we are still eating. But even if you look at the current position, the FMCG is also like the biggest, like HUL and Britannia, they have also not posted very great results. So they are also discretionary spending. All the media and all is all in a lockdown now. So very, very important, because the discussion here would be valuation of privately held companies. So like Pawan sir mentioned, a valuer should start with a thorough review of business model, because this is unprecedented. For a company saying it is going to sustain it, there has to be logic to it. So the business model, and if you look into business model, there are four main aspects of a business model. First is the revenue which a company makes. Second is the cost which a company incurs. Third is the working capital, and four is the leverage, that the debt levels. So if you can substantiate the revenue, the cost, the working capital, and the leverage. Like for example, if a company has a company has a 10% of working capital, I mean, do you think the debtors are going to pay? I don't think so. Do you think so most likely there will be blockage in working capital. When there will be blockage in working capital, the value will reduce. Most likely the revenue will fall. So when the revenue will fall, then the profits will fall, because the cost will be maintained. Do not expect that companies are going to lay off everyone, because it is a huge cost to retain the people, to again give them training. So people, companies, decent sized companies would have to maintain their cost. They can rationalize it, but I am not expecting that cost will go away. It will still be 60-70% of the cost. Working capitals may increase. Debt levels depends upon what kind of moratorium government looks at it. But yes, looking at it, the cash flows looks dicey, right? What is the geographical location of a business? It's very important, because even though we are talking of Indian companies, but not all Indian companies have business only in India. So some companies can have businesses in Europe, and in this COVID, the worst cut set of geography is Europe. After Europe, it is US. So if an Indian company is having business in Europe, and if another company is having business in US, and if an Indian company is having business in India, both these three companies can generate a different level of cash flows. So it is not that it is a one step that suits all. It is actually fact specific, and it can very well differentiate between, maybe we do not, I mean, India is still better off than the rest of the globe, and we hope that it doesn't spread in India. So going by that, a company which is having operations in Europe, a company which is having operations in US, maybe maybe seeing the cash flows severely hit when it compares to a company which is having business in India. Time to recovery also depends upon, stimulus and what kind of competitive advantages. Like again, there was an example given that companies are now challenging themselves, and companies are looking, like I was looking at Asian Paints, and Asian Paints is now making sanitizer. So for companies like paint manufacturing companies, there are pharma companies who have made a lot of sanitizers. So you need to change your business models. Every company has got affected, but which is the company which has rebuilt its strategy? And yes, there is a cost of retaining people. What are you doing with those people? Are you making some changes in your model? Are you doing something which adds value, which maintains your cash flow? Because at the end of the day, if you maintain your cash flows, it is certainly there is a hit in 2021, but once we go forward, a bulk of the value in DCF is generated through perpetuity. So if a company sustains today, it does not make profit, even if it works at break even, it would be better off. And certainly, even though the market on 31st of March would be showing a very, very, very negligible value, but then once you average out that value, say for a 3 months period, and once you look into the discounted cash flow after reviewing the business model, a company can still get perpetuity. So my thought here is, it is a fight between continuity and sustainability and growth. So do not expect that companies are going to do wonders in financial year 2021. Companies will not do. It is highly hypothetical. but which are the companies which can be back on track in financial year 2022. So that requires a lot of planning from the management, and that is why there is an importance of thorough review of business model. A valuer who just creates a spreadsheet, an Excel model, just punches the number is never going to succeed in this kind of volatile scenario. Because here, if you look at it, I mean, every every assumption of management is going to get challenged by the valuers or by the auditors. So I am certainly seeing the companies getting impairment, but yes, it depends upon the industry, it depends upon the geographical location, it also depends upon how you are managing your revenue, cost, working capital, and leverage. Again, when we say that impairment of assets is there, impairment also depends upon what is the kind of impairment of assets. I mean, are you talking of tangible assets, are you talking of intangible assets, or are you talking of goodwill? So there is a sequence which one has to follow, and basis that, a lot of time of the valuer would go in analyzing the business model. So maybe if you can add on some review exercise, spend some time with the management, and if we can be transparent to each other, and management and valuer uh, do a threadbare discussion, see the past performance, though not very relevant. And but if there are companies which are older companies which have seen that 2008 crisis, I mean, how they coped with that 2008 crisis. I mean, smaller companies generally are badly affected. Larger companies tend to be safe. So because we would be doing by and large the valuation of smaller companies, or in other sense, privately held companies, there needs to be challenge, and there needs to be discussion on to what extent we can have a comfort on the financial models they are going. And the companies which are more than 10-15 years old, 2008 is one date. If we can look at what kind of effect it happened to them and how they survived, how many companies survived, for startups it's going to be very challenging. So coming to the valuation approaches, I mean, market based methodology, again we discussed that the valuation date say 31st of March, so past, average, and subsequent events. So here in March, I just mentioned that probably it would be more prudent to consider a weighted average of say 1 month or 3 months rather than sticking to a particular date, because there was a high level of volatility, and certainly that cannot be said to be a fair price. Once we go into a discounted cash flow, again the detailing of future cash flows, deeper understanding of valuation, knowledge of business is very important. I mean, a person who has an understanding of how the business works would be able to add value to it. So you will have to put your more focus and understanding and experience in the business model, the changes to the strategies, whatever the company was doing in last year, the company may not be able to do in this year and the future year. So there has to be the first, there will be a dip, and after dip there can be increase. Now whether that increase will be steep or slow, that depends upon a lot of factors that we discussed. Very important is prospective financial information to cover known or knowable as on valuation date. So companies can say that no, I will not get affected, and even if I get affected in year 1, I may not get affected in year 2. The question needs deeper understanding of the concepts, and because we know that as on the valuation date this significant thing has happened, so that will not have impact only on one particular year, that is also having to going to have an impact on the future years. But again, that depends upon what kind of aspect it is. Second aspect that I would like to cover here is review of cost of capital. Cost of capital, very interesting observation here is that the interest rate presently is at all-time lows. So when we do a cost of capital, say we do a cost of equity calculation by CAPM model, then if you do not adjust anything, then plain vanilla cost of capital is actually lower. Why? Because the RBI has reduced the repo rates, so the cost of debt has reduced, the risk-free rate has reduced, and what is left actually is the risk premium. So the valuer needs to adjust the risk premium while calculating the cost of capital. A very interesting observation is that if a company was doing a cost, I mean, if a company was, I mean, what exactly is cost of capital? Cost of capital is the return expectation of the investor. So do you think the return expectation of investors would reduce or increase in this kind of, when the uncertainty increases, certainly the return expectations also increase. So to our understanding, there could be, I mean, first you need to stabilize the financials. Once the financials are stabilized, after that you need to consider the cost of capital, and in the cost of capital there is a need to adjust for an incremental risk premium. In US countries, there are some organizations which have said that if the risk premium in US was 5%, it should now be 6%. In India, actually, the risk premium could be much more, because fundamentally so do not look at the historical estimates. I mean, historical estimates, if you go just by formula, that the cost of equity is risk-free rate plus risk premium into beta, you may actually arrive at a very less cost of equity, which could be say 13-14%. I mean, I don't expect a company getting discounted at less than 18% in the present scenario. That also depend upon the factors, like we said, what is the stage of business? Is it a growth stage, operating stage, declining stage? But yes, cost of capital and cash flows go hand in hand. So if the cash flows are aggressive, the cost of capital has to be aggressive. And if the cash flows are not aggressive, then also, because of the uncertainty attached, the cost of capital should increase. So everything remaining equal, the cost of capital in India should increase. If the projections have not been stabilized, have not been rationalized, the cost of capital should rather be more. Coming to the impact of uncertainty, see, whatever cash flows you make, it is very difficult to value any company based on one single set of cash flows. So one probability that comes to my mind is, like, for startups we use a methodology which is called as the first Chicago methodology. Now under that first Chicago methodology, what we do, we value the startup under a survival stage, under a success stage, and under a failure stage. So these are the three possible options which can come to any COVID company also. So depending upon the kind of preparation the management has done, we can create multiple scenarios. And once that multiple scenarios is done, and then sensitivity analysis can be done. If the cost of capital is increased by 1%, if it is increased by 2%, if the growth rate is 4%, because the long term growth rate will also be getting impacted. So maybe we were saying that a company in India can be 4 to 5%, but now all those aspects need a review. And the only point I would like to make here is that you cannot just look at the numbers, and business valuation is beyond the numbers. You will have to understand the business, you will have to understand the industry, you will have to understand the financial model, you will have to ask the companies to justify the assumptions considered on account of revenue, on account of expenses, on account of working capital, and on account of the leverage. Because until and unless a company has clear answers, until and unless the markets are not performing, until and unless we do not have a stimulus, just talking is not going to help. So it is an uncertain scenario. Certainly we will have to do a lot of sensitivity analysis. And in terms of IVS, we say that we cannot apply any one particular methodology. We have to apply a comparable companies model, we have to apply a discounted cash flow model, we have to consider a comparable transaction model, we have to take some learnings which we got from 2008 crisis. And yes, the companies are going to be back on track, but don't forget that we are talking here for smaller companies, and smaller companies get affected in these down rounds. So there are a lot of questions which are here. and I would like to start with the questions, whatever are there, because broadly we have covered the macros, and we would like you to take back for some questions. So I would pass it to Pawan sir to please look into the questions and whatever we can answer in the interest of the audience.
Okay, thank you, Chandar. You have nicely covered all the aspects of this. Now, over to the audience. I have received questions which I will ask you, and you can give reply to this.
Okay.
Now, this is one question. What and how should we take impact of COVID-19 while computing discounting factor?
So I have given an answer to this actually, that everything remaining equal, your discount rate should increase. However, before discount rate, we need to look at the cash flows of a company. So if a company has already rationalized the cash flows, if a company has already taken a hit of 20-30%, there may not be need to add a significant risk premium. But a company which is actually not agreed to this COVID impact, and it feels that it can still pass over all the tides, though it is not in a positive sector, then as a valuer, we need to consider a higher amount of risk premium. And once I was taking a conference and I said that the risk premium is Brahmastra of the valuer. Because the only thing, if a company does not change the projections, you cannot change the projection as a valuer, but you have this Brahmastra, you can use it. So you can increase it basis your understanding of the business and to what extent the cash flows have been rationalized.
Okay, next question, Chandar. What is the discount rate given for COVID-19 in valuation?
So this is again the same question, sir. What we discussed, that discount rate again depend upon industry, business, cash flows. So I mean the answer is same.
Okay. Would unsecured lending to college students, app-based lending to startup, be a positive or negative industry going forward?
So if you look into it, I mean the online training and education industry has seen a growth here, but I mean what kind of app you are making, and a lot of things will come into play. Cannot give an offhand answer to this question.
The answer is if the app-based any startup is there, and it is some gaming and something which can replace in keeping in mind social distancing and the new type of business, definitely it will go up.
Correct.
Now, can we say cost of capital which is equal to cost to equity and cost to debt instead of returns?
So cost of capital actually is a summation of cost of debt and cost of equity, yes. And in simple language, it is the return expectation. But for calculation, how do you calculate that? You calculate WACC by combining the weight of debt into cost of debt and the weight of equity into cost of equity, and that is it. Yes, these are same.
Okay, can you elaborate a little more on how the first Chicago methodology used for a startup can be used for a
the first Chicago methodology, what we do, we create scenario based cash flows. So we say that yes, we do not know whether a startup will succeed or not. So there is an optimistic scenario in which whatever company says, we said okay, that's acceptable. Second is a pessimistic scenario, whatever you say is wrong, right? So you discount it by 80%. And third is a survival, that maybe 50% you succeed, 50% you do not succeed. And once these three cash flows are given, there is also a qualitative benchmark wherein we go beyond the numbers. We also see what is the management track record. We also see what is the business model. We also see what is the sector. We also see what is your team. So it is a combination of financial and non-financial parameters. And once we combine both these, there is a valuation which comes. And then so idea is that we need to move away from only the numbers. numbers can be misleading under present scenario. So consider more probabilities, consider qualitative aspects as well.
Okay, if keeping all assumptions as same, what is the impact of change in the interest rate?
So interest rate have gone down.
No, this is an economic question somebody has asked. So the interest rate will definitely go down because of the way things are going and government is taking plan. So this is a different economically question. Now, under the current situation, what is the precise RA will opt? Should they withdraw from resolution application? Because resolution professional has given some valuation and some calculation. So today everything is changing. So should they withdraw, or what they will do? They should
see very basic. Again, I started from basics. Some people would say why I covered the basics, but you know, whenever there is a question, we fail because of basics. Valuation is at a point of time. Was it known or knowable on that date is a question. If it was not known or knowable on that date, your value is not changing. If you do a valuation on 31st of December, anybody was knowing that this COVID can happen? Answer is no. So it depends upon the measurement date. So it does not change the last valuations, but yes, if any transaction takes place today, the company is not going to get that valuation. If you are not doing another valuation, don't change it. But in terms of legal provisions, again, you have to value on a CIRP date. Your CIRP date is not changing unless and until you change your CIRP date. Nothing will change. But yes, market will not give you that value. So there will be a difference and disconnect in price and value. Your value will not change, but price will change.
So how far does the first Chicago method for valuing startup hold good under present COVID scenario?
Yeah, you can apply. I mean, these kind of scenarios you should apply.
Okay, there are two factors governing the cost of equity, beta and risk premium. How can we check both prudently in keeping COVID-19?
So beta is actually, you compare the beta with the comparable companies, and beta is a systematic risk. So systematic risk means that when the market goes up, then your company value also goes up. If the market goes down, it also goes down. So the only adjustment you need to make in a risk premium, not in beta. Beta is driven by the market forces.
Okay, considering the market value won't be matched with fair value definition, and we should go more with the intrinsic value of the method. This is some comments given by one participant. So are you agreeing on this point?
So basically, again, if you look into Ind AS 113, it gives a hierarchy, and the first level of hierarchy is the market value. So if a company is listed, you cannot ignore that price. The only thing you can do is you can consider the weighted average for a period instead of 31st of March, but you cannot ignore the market price.
Okay, how to take into account the impairment of software which is IP for the company?
So again, I mean, once you do a valuation for a software impairment, you need to consider the cash flows which can be generated through that software. So again, the same thing. You first have to project the cash flows, then you have to discount that cash flows at a cost of equity.
Okay, under the current scenario, when the interest rate are all-time low and opportunity cost of capital is lower than earlier, should the expected cost of capital not have a reasonable premium oblique lesser than earlier instead of higher than earlier?
So essentially, I come back to the basic that cost of equity is your return expectation. Your return expectation cannot be low now because of the volatility. If people who are thinking of making money in capital market would be actually losing a lot of money in this time because the volatility is high, all-time high. So simply speaking, if nothing changes because of uncertainty, the discount rate should increase. For the discount rate to increase, because the RF and basic RM market has gone down, risk-free rate has gone down. So if you do not adjust anything, the cost of capital reduces. It is not possible. So cost of capital has to increase, and the only way of increasing the cost of capital is by increasing the risk premium.
Okay. Next question is, what about the taxation impact for the valuation?
So tax will remain same unless government changes the taxation.
So maybe he's asking this question, Chandar, that if the tax rate is going down, then automatically valuation will go up. That's a measure.
Correct.
Okay, how can we measure the impact on foreign exchange in case of import and export based company in cash flow and discount rate? What are the special precautions to be taken?
So again, like I mentioned, that you have to see the geographies in which company is operating. So for example, if you take an example of export houses, I mean, export houses are badly hit in this time because there are US companies, and then all the clients are from US. So all the money has got stuck. The working capital has got stuck. So you have to consider all these aspects while framing the financial model. And the best thing a valuer can do is actually start questioning the management, because there are always answers, but management, I mean, it's a basic issue that management pays the valuer. And so it's between professionalism. I mean, to what extent you can ask, and if required, can you lose the assignment? Because if the company is getting impairment, the company may be looking at other valuers also. So as the valuation is getting discipline in India, it is a choice you have to take. Because if you do valuations which cannot be justified, then upcoming valuer bill is also there, and valuer bill has provided for very serious penalties and prosecution also.
Okay, do you consider COVID a systematic or unsystematic risk, more particularly when some industries have quickly diversified?
So, like I said, beta is a systematic risk. But COVID, I mean, whatever is happening to industry, see very simply, systematic gets factored in the cash flows. So you make your cash flows, because if the industry is reducing, then certainly your cost is same, income is reduced, so profit has reduced. That means the cash flow is more of a systematic risk, but it is more of an unsystematic. I mean, the company specific risk is not a systematic risk. The systematic risk should be factored in the cash flows, unsystematic should be factored in the discount rate.
Okay, Chandra, very interesting question. Somebody has asked, valuation date is 31st March 31st March, and report date is 31st May. What factors should be included in valuation, suppose for inventory?
Come to the basic thought again, known and knowable as on the valuation date. If the valuation date is 31st of March, you have to consider everything as on 31st of March. Your signing date is not relevant actually.
Okay, as cost of debt has been already reduced by RBI, and if the company is more debt oriented, then automatically WACC will get reduced. Then how you will give an impact of risk premium as we give risk premium on cost of equity?
So company will still have some equity. It is not that company will be 100%. And you know, at some cases, we can also consider a cost of a company specific risk premium at a WACC level also. I mean, if you look into infrastructure companies, suppose there is a BOT project or EPC companies, then EPC companies will be having 70-80% of debt. So in this case, I mean, whatever risk premium you give to the 20%, it may not be adequate. However, there are serious leverage issues. So in this case, we have done certain valuations wherein we have given company specific risk premium also at a WACC level, not at an equity level.
Okay, how time and opportunity cost impact on valuation? For example, time taken in creating a software and opportunity to market.
So again, I mean, it's one way of doing a valuation is a replacement cost. Like if you have to value a software today, if you say that I am going to incur 2 lakh rupees in the software and a comparable software is available at 2.5 lakh rupees, and you may take 6 months or 12 months. So that time also, opportunity cost also has a valuation. So if something is readily available in the market today, then whatever is the price is a fair value, you can say that. But you need to consider different aspects and then arrive at a value for this.
Okay, there's another, somebody has asked a counter question on which I gave answer. With your explanation, issue for RA, ultimately resolution likely to fail during implementation if the valuation does not match practical situation.
Correct.
So
Sir, we are
answer is,
doing,
yeah,
we are doing valuation, we are not pricing. We have done valuation for a number of IBC cases, and we have observed that market, the valuation, the price that a applicant gives is depending upon a demand and supply. But when we are doing valuation, our role is not to look into a demand and supply. Our role is to look into the data and the valuation and the financial model. So there could be case where even though there is a value, but due to paucity of demand, their value may be very suppressed, or maybe the promoter does not want that value to be created. So we should always differentiate between value, which as a professional we do, and price, which the market determines. Yes, if the date of valuation does not change, we are comparing a CIRP date valuation and a 12 months after price. So if 12 months have gone by, certainly the value has to be different. So in this case, maybe the regulation needs to be changed, that if such a significant impact has happened, you need to take a revised valuation. Like in case a company, CIRP company, goes into liquidation, under liquidation there is a revised valuation. So because there is a revised valuation, the valuation which was done at the time of CIRP and the valuation which will again be done at the time of LP may be very, very different. It's more of a regulation issue because the date of valuation is changing.
Friends, we have a various questions, so I'm just extending time to finish all the questions of participants. That will be very good. My question is, can a slump sale valuation be considered as a valuation in COVID time?
So slump sale is actually a structure that you follow. I mean, slump sale is a lump sum sale of assets and liabilities. So it has nothing to do with COVID. It is just a mode of transaction. Instead of selling the shares, you are selling the assets as a whole. But how do you value that? The valuation methodologies are only asset, income, and market approaches. So slump sale or share transfer does not make any difference.
Okay, in case companies working under different countries, then should we also take in consideration country specific risk while computing cost of capital?
So like again, I said that if a company is an Indian company which is having 10 income from 10 geographies, then if you are valuing on a consolidated basis, then you factor in all the 10 cash flows and then you make one cash flows. So once everything is accounted, the forex risk is already taken into force, then it's an Indian company and Indian cost of equity. Another way is that you value each of the different cash flows, and see the cash flows and discount rate should be of the same currency. So if the cash flows are in INR, the cost of capital should be in INR. If the projections are in USD, then the cost of capital should be in USD. So if you have converted everything to INR, then there is no need of a country specific risk premium, because that is exchange rate and all is already factored. However, if you are doing a sum of the part valuation, you might need to do that.
But Chandra, tell me, if some say Italy, somebody is doing business in Italy, Italy is in a bad condition today. Okay, will you give discount to that?
So if Italy is doing bad, then Italy cash flows will be reduced automatically. Suppose I am a holding company, I have a wholly owned subsidiary in Italy. Then the cash flows, if the earlier cash flows was 100 and today Italy is doing bad, then the cash flows cannot be 100. The cash flow will be 10 or 15 or 20. So, and then suppose the forex exchange rate has also gone. So once I will account for in my balance sheet the Italy subsidiary, then that cash flow is already affected and the currency is automatically affected. So what is left is Indian business. There is nothing different. However, I can value the Indian company separately, standalone basis, and I can value the Italy company separately, and then I can add both of these two. If I value the Italy company separately, then I have to consider the cost of capital of Italy. If I am valuing on a consolidated basis, then I can do on the basis of the Indian cash flow. So currency and discount rates we have to match. Impact will automatically come.
Okay, patent valuation in a flip transaction should be apply a discount rate with reference of source or residence country.
Please repeat the question.
Patent valuation in a flip transaction should be apply a discount rate with reference of source or residence country. So
that depends when you are saying patent. I mean, ultimately, see, everything is valued based on the cash flows that an asset. I used to remember one case wherein a company came to us and said that there is a patent. I am making a speedometer, and when I asked that what is the cash flow, there is no cash flow. So if you cannot generate a cash flow, so again, for generating cash flow, you need to understand that where will be your cash flows coming from. So it depends upon where you are going to use that patent, what is the currency will be into, and if the currency is into INR, you have to use a discount rate of INR. You have to convert the cash flows, because ultimately asset does not have any value if it does not realize free cash flow. That is a basic principle of investing.
One question is, how do you foresee the real estate industry in financial 21-22? We are doing valuation, we are not forecasting. So forecasting has to come from the industry side, that what they are planning to do. But general trend they can take up, that real estate sector today is bad, but tomorrow the sector is going better, the valuation will change. Chandra, there is a very interesting question. Somebody has asked the counter question. We have given answer. If your valuation date is 31st March and valuation report is still not released to the client by 31st May, don't you feel the valuation need to be amended considering the change scenario?
So we have very categorically stated that if the valuation date is 31st of March, then you have to affect that. You have to give that impact. I mean, it was declared as pandemic, I think, on 11th of March. So pandemic is one major announcement that yes, something critical has happened. So 11th of March is a base date. Anything that you do after that, you must affect that. So we are saying it needs to be affected.
Okay, suppose the pandemic is declared after 11th April and you are giving valuation on 31st March. Will you change this?
So now basically what you need to do, that there is a difference in valuation date. Sir, now just look at this. I would like to flip this question. See, this question, if you are valuing a US company, then US company does not follow 31st March financials. Globally, they follow calendar year. So now for them, the impairment is on 31st of December. So it is a very important question for global companies. On 31st of March, we were knowing that there is a pandemic, we have to affect for that. The question which is coming, how the companies are doing impairment in US and Europe. Because on 31st of December 2019, it was not known or knowable. However, so there are 2 points of views coming, that because it was not known or knowable on that point of time, so you may not adjust. However, because on the date of signing, you know that something has happened, so you can give a comment and disclaimer in the report that yes, I have not considered the impact of this. So the reader should understand that the impact has not been considered. But there is a difference in global companies where it was not known or knowable, and Indian companies where it is actually known or knowable. Very, very thin line difference, but very critical.
Okay, how to find the market comparable for unlisted companies? For valuation of unlisted, shall we take in the market comparable data of listed company, or shall we try to fetch the data of unlisted company from MCA?
So you have to compare the unlisted company with a listed company. And for listed company, you have two options. One, you have to look into the industry categorization. And second, what you can do, you can compare it using the NIC codes. So NIC codes are given in the annual return, where basis the business activity. You can compare NIC codes, you can compare a particular industry sub-classification, and basis that you can take a mean and median of all the companies. Just make sure you have to take only the frequently traded companies. Sometimes when we do a comparable companies, some companies are infrequently traded. So do not consider those infrequently traded. And also, if you are a young startup company, you cannot compare yourself with Infosys or TCS. So you have to ensure what is your size, what is the comparable size, what is your margin, what is the comparable margin, what are your risk return ratios, what are the comparable risk return ratios. Match those, select 5-7 companies, do an average or median, and go ahead.
Okay, for a valuation as of pre-pandemic date, the client appointed the valuer in pandemic and physical verification was not possible. Do valuer take such work?
I mean, that is your choice. There will always be these challenges. You can always put notes and disclaimers in your report. But the guidance in IVS is that if a valuer does not find comfort in the report and still signs the report, then it is the responsibility of the valuer. So decide before signing off.
I think last 3 questions which I will take up. How to address impact of uncertainty in financial model and valuation?
So you need to actually devote more time with the management. You need to have knowledge of industry. You need to look into the past performance of the promoters. If any, I mean, if the company, if there are good companies which have seen the up and down, how they have done this, and you have to consider more scenarios. Do not rely on one set of numbers. Create scenarios. Do not rely on only one valuation methodology. Consider many valuation methodologies. Do a weighted average. It is going to take more time of valuer, more time of management, more time of auditor, certainly.
So the business model will take now the center stage as compared to only data.
Yeah, business model is the center stage, and if the management is transparent and open and discuss clearly with the valuer, then I think we can come out with better valuations compared to a scenario wherein management is not very open, and then there could be issues.
Okay, key takeaways on estimating or reviewing future cash flows when sustainability itself in a question.
So I mean, the point is, first we have to start with the sector. Second, we have to see the strategy of the company. I mean, everything is down, but what is the strategy the company is following? Like I gave you example of Asian Paints, and Asian Paints ventured into sanitizers, and there are many examples which we have that pharma companies have gone into sanitizers. I mean, they have just used the available resources and created some value. So what kind of value you are creating for your stakeholder is very important. What are the cost reduction strategies you have undertaken? Like some companies, in the last seminar we had touched upon force majeure clause. I mean, just look at media companies. All the media companies have so many rentals. All the real estate companies have so many rentals. Have you invoked the force majeure clauses? Have you planned for your cash flows? What have you done to be break even? We are not talking to grow in 2021, but are you break even? Have you done and taken any step? So corporate action of management is going to be very relevant. Maybe it is a time to look into some mergers, group companies mergers, some options, some leaning of companies, some kind of solutions management has to take. I mean, status quo is not going to help.
Okay, review of business model and financial model. To what extent role of management versus auditor versus valuer?
The same answer. I have seen that if we do 10 valuations, the only valuations which get debated is financial reporting valuations, because auditors have a role to play in financial reporting valuations. Auditors never even discuss on ESOP valuation or FDI valuation or Companies Act valuation or income tax valuation, because that is not impacting the P&L account. So basic.
I have received some few more questions and they are very interesting. So I'm just asking you, how much, too much or less in disclaimer under COVID situation?
So first of all, if you look into the registered valuer rules, then the registered valuer rules say that whatever disclaimer you do, that disclaimer cannot limit your responsibility. So first of all, we need to understand the law. That using disclaimer does not mean that you can limit your responsibility. But yes, using disclaimers is actually to give more clarity to the user of the report, that what you have considered and what you have not considered. So you are being transparent. You are not going to take all the responsibility of the management. So it is a very fine balance.
Okay, does income tax department accept valuation other than DCF method?
So for issue of equity shares, DCF, if you are doing, then that can only be done by a merchant banker. But if you are not doing DCF, if you are doing an NAV method, then that can be done by anyone and income tax accepts it.
Okay, does a parent company need valuation report for making investment in 100% wholly owned subsidiaries?
So there is no exemption. If you are making investment, if that's an Indian company, you need to follow the Companies Act valuation and also the income tax valuation. If you are investing outside India, you also need RBI valuation. So regulatory valuation position is very challenging in the country. Answer is yes.
Okay, last question, Chandra. Should RP seek a review of valuation report today if plans have still to be approved by COC?
It is more of a regulatory challenge because the law prescribes for the valuation to be conducted on the CIRP date. Whether RP has the jurisdiction to cross the IBVI regulations, I don't think so.
So thank you very much, Chandar. I think you have given most of the answer. Few answers which are not clear in this, we will try to incorporate and we'll try to send to that particular person. So friends, thank you very much. I just want to close this. So we have tried to provide all the answers of your questions, and Chandar has explained principal aspects and the practical aspects of various questions. COVID has changed the world. You will not find everything same. Everything will change across the world. Now, the across the world is very important. It is not something is happening in India. It is something happening across the world. Today, industries are categorized in red zone, orange zone, and green zone. And then there is a efforts that how much time it will take to change. Socio-economic structure is changing and it will change. Social system, habit, preference, lifestyle, economy, everything will take a new dimension. Health, sanitization, care for nature, life versus livelihood, expenses reduction, social interaction, social distancing, e-mode for entertainment, China factor, self-sufficiency of each country, change in the priorities, force entrepreneurship, and food habits. Everything will take new change, and it will directly impact the economic activities of that industry and that company. Relevance of international organization, WTO, WHO will change. Tourism will take a dip and national tourism will increase. Work from home concept will change the way, and it will impact the real estate, it will impact the consumption of petrol and the impact of various automobile companies. The point is that if you ask me that whether one aspect will be common for all, answer is no. I was doing research on Maruti. That Maruti was saying in April they have not sold any vehicle. But the issue is there is another interesting point is coming that whether automobile industry will go down. The new aspects came. The new aspects came that there are so many people out of 130 crore that they don't want to go by airplane, they don't want to go by rail, they don't want to go by bus, they don't want to go by Ola and Uber. So how they will go to different place? So they will use their own vehicle. So there is a possibility people have no vehicle, so they will buy. Then suddenly somebody say, no, those who have no money, they will buy motorcycle. So the point is, every bad situation is bringing an opportunity, and the most important opportunity is which I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Because today, no doubt, the session is valuation, but ultimately we have to think of our country. We have to think, the valuer also think on various aspects. It's not only financial figure, it's not only the just data, it has to be business as well as social impact also. You cannot plan on the basis of that what happened in the past, it will happen in the future also. The light at the end of the tunnel, that is that the Indians and the humanities fighter, they fight. And recently the best, very important thing has come. McKinsey has done a survey of all over the world, CEOs, and they find the optimistic level after COVID. Japanese has 25 and other countries has some number, but the most important thing, Indians CEO has 53%. This indicates that we have a fight and we will bounce back. So we have a never die. We will not follow that something we can surrender. We will fight. COVID, we will come out well, and on the basis of this, various things will come. So we will win this COVID battle, and this COVID battle will give us so many new lessons, and that will come. So thank you very much, friends. In the same aspects, we are organizing a next webinar on AGM and EGM. As you are aware that conducting AGM and AGM now it's allowed by the e-mode, but there are so many challenges for companies, so many challenges for big companies, so many challenges which has a more shareholders. So we are organizing this program on Friday. So we'll send you the information. Saturday we are organizing a right issue, because right issue has come from so many relaxation, and then we are conducting one webinar on right issue. The right issue is how to do right issue, what are the things, what are the challenges, how to do it. So these two seminars is lined up, and then the corporate professional is organizing various other seminar on ESOP, deal, the legal system, labor law, and the other companies law, and various compliance aspects. So friends, thank you very much for your participation in this program. It was a small crisp session. Anything with your response, we will ask your feedback, and then we will organize another program on the valuation that will come. So valuer has so many challenges, valuer has so many issues, and they will work out and come out in a different model, different practices, and different experience. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all for participating in our webinar. Thank you. Jai Hind.